yeah, that you are really interested in like
Mm.
M&A or
Mhm.
whatever. But yeah, if not, as Liv said, look, I can speak from experience that I did take that route ultimately. I took
Mm.
the extra year in audit, which I wasn't delighted about, but I ended up having actually probably one of my best years because I just had a great time socially, maybe not so much my work, but
Ah,
socially had a great time.
good stepping
And
stone.
yeah, and ultimately, and then yeah, once I got to GT, like suddenly those internal moves they are really doable. You know, they want like I know, for example, with GT, we've had quite a lot of roles that have been filled internally in the
Yeah.
TS team, and
Yep.
typically they will prefer internal candidates. You
Yeah.
know, that is just kind
They
of
just
how
do.
it,
They just know. They know the person. They know where they're gonna go. They know where they're gonna fit in. Or yeah, and also and like yeah, there's already that relationship there. I think corporate finance is, it seems anyway, so like relationship focused.
definitely.
And it's so like personality based as well, because a lot of people have got first time passes, a lot of people have got 100% audit, or a lot of like there's so much competition that it's like what's going to set you apart is who you are, and like
Yeah.
how great you are to work with, or commercial. Or but something I wanted to know as well, which I think we haven't really spoken about yet, is obviously we discussed the route within practice corporate finance, so you know, moving to a larger firm, moving then into that team and getting more exposure. Longer term, like whether it's in-house or what kind of is next. So if you can either progress through practice obviously and kind of take that route. What are the other kind of pathways that someone doing corporate finance could look at for like later on?
It's
Loads.
lots really, yeah, and I think that's
Yeah.
the best
Yeah.
thing that I've noticed and why it is kind of worth all these like little side meets then because
Yeah.
like the doors it opens having transactional experience on your CV, whether it's what I'm doing in TS or Leader Right, whatever, it
Mm.
opens so many more doors because it's just that extra bit of differentiation from being an ACA qualified candidate.
Yeah.
So you've obviously got within corporate finance, like we said, there's lots of different strands. So for me, I might at some point end up potentially moving into the lead advisory. That's something I'd like to
Okay.
probably do at some point, which
Yeah.
again, I've obviously got the skill set to move into.
Yeah.
Or within corporate finance, we also got there's more specific strands like financial modeling and
Yeah.
valuations, which again, the bigger firms will have their own, like GT will have their own team doing that. So,
Yeah.
you might want to do a specific, want to be a bit more specialized and go into that. Or there's, basically anything where it's transaction related. So whether it's private equity, I've got a friend who's just moved from my team this week to a private equity firm as an investment role. So, private equity is typically obviously very competitive and hard to get into, but they do really like, especially from the transactions background, they do really like that. So
Yeah.
that's if that's where you want to end up, then obviously that opens that door. You've got the boutique corporate finance
Yeah.
advisors who just they don't do audit and accounts, they just do M&A. So you've got that option. And then really, yeah, it's the sort of transferable skills you pick up. So like the data analysis, like I was saying, you could go into do an FP&A role,
Yeah.
which quite hard at the moment.
Yeah.
You could, I mean, you can go in house. You could work for say, Vodafone and work on their M&A deals for them exclusively. So
Yeah.
that's what's called corporate development, which I hadn't really heard that phrase till I started this role. But that's also another interesting route. So you want to go into M&A, but you want to just you are working for the client. You are, the client, so to speak. So you work in house. Or yeah, you go in back into industry, obviously. But I just think it's one of those things that once you've got that on your CV,
Yeah.
like it's probably hard once you get out. It's probably hard to get into this role. If you went into industry, I'd say it's it probably is doable, but I think you almost want to do this when you're still in your training stages
Yeah.
and kind of tick as many boxes as you can and then
Yeah.
get out into industry. I don't know, obviously Liv can speak better that than from me, but personally I feel I do want to probably end up in industry at some point, but I kind of
Yeah.
want to have all my boxes ticked in all the different areas and then
Mm.
make that move out when I've kind of got all the transactional and data analysis
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that.
We usually advise that. We usually advise to, get like larger exposure and also, specialize further within that sector kind of thing. So say if someone wants to do like, I don't know, FS longer term, cool. go into a larger firm, specialize in FS, that then when you want to move across, you have more choice over where you can go.
Definitely.
Whereas people who move straight away, because some candidates, we probably could have looked at industry for you when you were at Bright Grey and Murray, but it obviously where you were at a mid-tier firm, it just means that once you then move across to that, and you're kind of capped at a certain level,
Yeah.
you haven't branched out before you've gone across. So it would have been doable, but I think just doing it this way round then means you can be more selective on the type of industry you go into, have more
Definitely.
autonomy.
Definitely.
Yeah. So what's your plan? Like, obviously, you've bossed it so far. You've gone from
I wouldn't
BDM,
say
the
that.
eyes were
I
like
wouldn't
BDM,
yeah.
FS. You then gone into the corporate finance team. Like, obviously, you got promoted not too long ago. Congratulations. Like,
Yeah.
for you yourself, what kind of, where do you
I've
industry?
got to be careful in case my employers are on this call. But
Yeah.
I think yeah, kind of what I said before. I would like to go into that. So I've obviously enjoyed working in sort of more the transaction side of things and
Yeah.
due diligence, but I would like to eventually go into that more end-to-end deal role, whereby
Yeah.
it's lead advisory or even the corporate development.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a mini move recently in terms of I didn't mention this before, but I have been specialised in financial services. And recently I've moved across into, we have like a more of a generalist team, so
Nice.
who do different sectors. So I have had a bit of a change. I will be working kind of different sectors, which is good. But yeah, I think down the line I would like to move into a slightly more all-encompassing
Yeah.
deals role. But yeah, I think I still I still don't really know. That's the crazy thing, isn't it? You kind of always think you'll know by now. When I did the
Yeah.
ACS, I should know where I'm. But I kind of always think in like 1 or 2 year blocks ahead. So I make
Yeah.
sure that whatever move I'm doing or I think I'm doing, that it just keeps opening doors, or it doesn't close any doors until
Yeah.
the point you obviously get to where you're like, actually,
I
I
really
really
want to
want to
do
do
that.
this. This is
Yeah.
great. But right now, I kind of still feel like I just want to make sure that whatever I do next, it's kind of just keeps those doors open. So that's probably the
Right.
big bit of like advice I would give, is just try and think like what your next move, when you're having the chat with Liv in a
Longevity.
year's time, what options are going to be available to you now that weren't available to you previously. If they're not
Yeah.
really going to change much, then maybe don't think twice about that. But if suddenly you've got that extra tick, the big firm, whatever, or the transactional, then great, and then it's worth taking that like slight sideways, whatever you want to call it, move, because it will get you there in 2 years' time, or
Yeah.
1 year's time, whatever, hopefully quicker.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Like, so much information and like really insightful. We've also got notes from everything we've discussed so far that I might send out in an email or something to everyone.
Yeah.
There was a question that was asked that I'm just going to answer, but obviously, Johnny, if you have anything to add as well, please go for it, because
Yeah,
it'll
sure.
be interesting to hear from corporate finance side as well. Also, anyone who's a part of this, if you want to ask anything, you feel free to write a question in the conversation box. We're going to be wrapping it up in the next 5-10, but just if you have anything that I haven't covered or that we haven't spoken about, please feel free to ask it. Someone emailed me, I don't want to say their name, but someone that I know, they emailed asking, what are the key skills, behaviors recruiters or interviewers want to see in CVs, interviews, and cover letters? So basically, what type of thing are recruiters and or potential clients looking for? For me, I'll probably lead with this. So personally, with regards to skills and behaviors, if you're kind of wanting to go into the corporate finance element, I would say something obviously commercial, something with value add. Obviously, Johnny mentioned about the data analysis or anything like that you can add on that you've done. If you've done a secondment, if you've done a 2-week, shadowing of someone like a partner or I don't know, whatever in the corporate finance team, something like that would definitely help. With regards to cover letters, I spoke to a few of my colleagues who do industry and commerce. I don't know, Johnny, if it's a different corporate finance. They said cover letters typically are a bit dated now. They're saying instead a blurb is suitable. So make the CV relevant to the role, which obviously I can assist with, or a recruiter can help with. Obviously Michael Page, because I'm biased. I make it company specific. So it's always good to have a wide variety of client turnovers on there. So give an example of a large company you've done the audit and accounts for, audit and or accounts. Give an example of a small company. You can keep them confidential, so it can be, you know, a manufacturing client or a financial services client, but also make it relevant. So, you know, if you want to long-term move into fashion, a fashion industry, don't then talk about maybe a pub that you didn't audit for. Like, make your CV relevant to where you're trying for. And also my consultant, actually, my colleague also mentioned a reference. So he said that that's actually as valuable as a cover letter or a CV if it's detailed, because some clients won't know you from the other person. So if you have a really detailed reference and someone who can do a testimony for you, rather than just being like, oh yes, Johnny Gold, he works at GT, full stop. If you make it more like, yes, he's done this work, and more the ins and outs of what you've done, then that's obviously valuable. I don't know if any of that relates CV wise, Johnny, for you, like for corporate finance. Like, I just feel any value add stuff as well. I think if you've done any value add,
anything a bit different. Like, I know in accounts roles when I was working at BGM, we kind of had a bit more ad hoc project work we would do as well, like we looked at budgets and forecasts and like anything like that. If you've ever done that, that's great. Like anything a bit forward looking or advisory, you know, don't be afraid to shout it, even if it was a day, just, you know,
something.
It's still something, just makes you stand out. Because and then just again think about look at these job specs like Liv said and really like, right, what have like, can I, they might be saying something quite a fancy way, but actually you have done that in some kind of form. Just really try and work backwards to try and see if actually you might surprise yourself. You have done some things and you can, you know, tick off quite a few of them. But yeah, I think a big thing, like attention to detail is really is big, and they'll kind of take that as a given. But yeah, and the data analysis again as well, I'd say definitely that's a very hot topic, and in what we do, like that is really strong skills to have. So if you do have that, shout that out, and if you use different softwares, yeah, exactly,
bold,
yeah, but definitely just try if you can, you know, I guess different. Look, it's difficult, isn't it? It's so competitive, but anything you can to differentiate yourself a little bit, just shout it, because everyone else is doing it. You've always got to assume that everyone else would say, don't be afraid to,
no, that's
sell yourself.
helpful. And we've got a question from James in Birmingham. I don't know why it says Birmingham on there, but obviously you're in Birmingham, but I don't know why that matters. So something that my colleagues in corporate finance tell me is that one of the hardest things about the transition is the change in mindset from the compliance in audit to more commercial in corporate finance. Could you tell us a little bit more about how you found that transition? Mindset.
Yeah, change in mindset. Yeah, I agree. I think there's more pressure in a way that comes with it, because you know, of course, there is pressure in audit and you have to be compliant and blah, blah, blah. But personally, did that really motivate me? You know, I did my job, but I didn't really like go above and beyond. Whereas with this, you know, your work is going to be scrutinized because it really matters. You know, I found, you know, I'd have done an Excel, some analysis, and if you've made a mistake, it can actually change what I didn't really go into before, but we do help formulate the final transaction price. We will do our own kind of calculation. It's what's known as adjusted EBITDA. Unfortunately, I don't have time to go into detail, but we play a very important part in terms of like determining what the final transaction price is, and you don't want to get that wrong, clearly. So I did feel initially, in some ways it's great because you're like, God, this is like really important. I'm really adding value, but there is that sense of pressure. So I think it's really, and that's why attention to detail is important. So I think, yeah, I think I personally, I enjoyed it. I found it more interesting, but definitely there is an added commercial pressure, which some people may, you know, it takes a while to get used to. And even now I'm still like triple checking, quadruple checking, but that's like normal. And also to know that we all do make mistakes as well.
Yeah.
You know, even the experienced guys. So if you do make a mistake, it happens. Like you know, it's usually salvageable. It always is. It's just, you know, we might have to tell the client sorry, and you know, often they're fine with it. But I think look at it more in a positive sense, that you know you're doing something that really matters, and that's like what the overriding feeling. That offsets kind of, yeah, there is a bit of pressure, but you know, it's a good pressure because you know you're doing something really meaningful.
Okay, thank you. And then one more. Is there one more? Yes.